So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar where we're going to take a look at Windchill PLM. We're going to have a broad overview about Windchill, what it does, and we're also going to provide a demo so you can see what Windchill looks like. And the interesting thing about Windchill is it can be used very simply as a PDM tool. And then as your needs grow, you can grow into using it as a product lifecycle management tool. But most importantly, Windchill is customizable. And sometimes that can be, you may think, oh, well, it's overwhelming, but it really isn't, because what we do at 3HTI is help you with what your goals and objectives are with managing your data. And we help you to configure Windchill to how it's going to fit best for you and make it easiest for everybody in your organization inside the enterprise and outside the enterprise to use. So I'm excited about this overview, which is going to be about 30 minutes. And leading us today is going to be Shane Rigger from the PTC's Virtual Center of Excellence. And without further ado, Shane, it's all yours.
Thanks, Rob. And just a brief intro of myself, like Rob was mentioning, I'm a part of the Virtual Center of Excellence here at PTC. And today what we're going to be going through is Windchill. Like Rob was mentioning also, it's PTC's out-of-the-box PLM software solution. And this is all around managing and collaborating every aspect of information about your product development and manufacturing processes. What you're seeing here is base PLM. So there's a lower level to this with PDM, like Rob was mentioning. With base PLM, you're going to get things like document management, workflows, distributed collaboration, complete BOM management, visualization, change management. Those are some of the more important or common topics that we run into. And then whenever you want to expand out, grow with your enterprise, grow with your company, what you're seeing here are a la carte extensions. From here, you can, once you are set up on your base PLM, if you needed something such as supplier management, which you could see in the bottom right, or component management, you can add those a la carte versus having to get the entire suite of extensions that Windchill has. And one thing to note also is you can see that CAD at the top right and then ERP on the far left, they're grayed out. And the reason is because Windchill, it's not an ERP system and it's not an ECAD system, but there are integrations for systems like that. So if you have an ERP system that you want to bring in data from that into and incorporate it within Windchill, there's integrations for systems like that. Now, the system itself is all around optimizing the product lifecycle, and it does it by starting with the CAD data management to documentation to any downstream processes and version and history control, which we're going to be seeing in the demonstration. And there's templates for predefined workflows, or you can use the out-of-the-box workflows to be able to branch off and configure them to be your own. And different companies use different tools or different types of tools and different types of documentation. And with Windchill, it allows you to use those different systems and objects, and it all works within Windchill. So whether you're using Creo, which is PTC's native CAD solution, or if you're using something such as SolidWorks, whether you're working with PDF documentation, Word documents, it's able to work with those type of different file formats. Now, going into the demonstration, we're going to be covering the first is the user, the UI for a user, understanding how data is actually managed within the system, searching, BOM management, and collaboration tools. Like I mentioned, we're going to start with the user interface. So what you're seeing here is a user's home screen. Whenever you're a new user, you log in. This is something similar to what you would be seeing. From here, there's a lot of different configurations that can be made. So for example, if you wanted to have updates and checked out work being shown on your home screen, it's easy. You go over to your customize button, which is really configuration, and you're choosing those tables to be shown. There's also different context or different types of data that can be brought in, like I was mentioning. So for example, this is a Word document. When you right click on the Word document, you can see you have a lot of different options to choose from. But then, for example, let's say you want to right click on an assembly and see what actions you have there. When you bring those objects in, Windchill is able to discern the differences between them and then give you options per the object type you have. Throughout the tables, there's configuration as well. And for example, if you don't want to have different columns being shown, like state, last modified context, similar to the tables, you just select on those different objects, and then they're going to be shown or not shown. The whole point there is just whenever you're coming into your home screen, you want the most valuable information for your day-to-day work, and that's what you're doing here. So configuring your home screen. And then lastly, with the table configurations, you can also choose the order very easily for the tables. If you want task at the top, for example, simply drag and drop it, and then it's going to change the order for you. Then whenever it comes to the top right side, or the top right part of the screen here, this is called, we like to call it the user zone. Really what this is just quick and important, easy access links or searching for the system. Simple example could be the recently accessed. This is a very straightforward but valuable tool to have. As you're working between different objects within Windchill, it's keeping a history of it. You're able to always come back to your home screen and quickly get back to what you were working on. There's also quick links. This is going to be valuable for whether it be new and experienced users for Windchill. You have things like the Windchill Help Center that you have direct access to. So if you need to understand how Windchill manages parts, for example, use the Help Center, search parts, and you can see that it's going to have a very robust list of different search results and showing you how parts are managed throughout the system. Then also you have preferences, and this is user-specific preferences that we're going to be viewing. This is really beneficial because you don't have to have contact IT administration to do things like this. If you have a user that needs to change how a date is formatted from their perspective, they can go into their preference management and make those changes. And then the last thing to cover from the top right side of the home screen is the simple search or global search. And you can see that firstly, you have different ways to filter your search. You can see parts, documents, CAD documents, even filtering by change objects. So if you were using this for change management or quality management, you can filter per those type of objects. And then once you have your filter, then you can search. When it comes to searching, this is a really powerful tool within Windchill. It has something called a wildcard search. So for example, let's say that you need to search for an object. You know it ends in 1178. You have no clue what it begins with. So what you'll be doing there is adding in an asterisk, which is pretty much filling in the blank, and then you're adding the 1178 and then searching. That also works at any point within the string that you're searching on. So if you knew it began with 11 and then ends in 78, you can add that wildcard search in the middle, and it's going to fill in the rest for you. Once you have search for your object, you could have a really long list of objects that populate in here. It could be hundreds or thousands, depending on how many different objects you're storing within Windchill. One thing to narrow down your search results is the faceted searching. So on the left-hand side, you can see there's faceted searching. This is going to be dynamic to the context you're searching in. So here you can see CAD, WT parts, which we'll talk to in a little bit, different context. And then whenever you're searching, sometimes you want to be able to search side by side for what you're viewing. So you can also pin down your navigator. So there you can see if you're searching between documents, your BOMs, parts, assemblies, change notices, you can work hand in hand with your searching. And then once you do narrow down your search results, another valuable tool to have is the thumbnail navigator. So again, imagine you might have a list of 10 different objects here or 100 different objects, even after your faceted search or your faceted filter. So then you would use your thumbnail navigator. All you do is hover over your object, and it's going to show you the product that you're searching. From here, you can use the some of the interrogation methods, such as zooming in, zooming out, rotating the object. And then there's also cross-highlighting. So as you highlight over a specific part or an assembly, it's going to be represented there in the visualization and on the right-hand side as well. And again, that's really valuable for whenever you perform searches like this. You don't have to drill down into every single part to understand what you're searching for. And this is also valuable for whenever you need to understand change impacts. So if you have a part like a washer, for example, and you need to understand where that's being used, you can go into the where you can search for that washer, go into the where used tab, and then understand the impact of change that that part would have. Then you also have an overview into similar information such as your CAD parts, if there was documents or process plans, changes out against this as well. This is a really powerful tool for being able to quickly understand the part you're searching for. Now, continuing on with the searching within Windchill, you have your search history and save searches. Very straightforward, but really valuable. So here you have your search history, everything that you've searched for, all the filters that you've added to your searching are going to be stored here. And then you have your created by me. Where this is going to be beneficial is, let's say that you always come into Windchill and you're working on a project where you've been searching for the same type of document or the same type of washer every single time you come in. You could create your search, save it, and then quickly come here and then have that same search. And then from here, you can see the type of configuration and options that you have or configuration that you have for searching. So we're saying that we want to search for a WT part, what context we're searching in, and then also kind of tying in the parts classification or parts management within Windchill. You can tie classification to the part and then also criteria. So if you were managing your parts within Windchill, you can see down below, you have washer thickness, inside, outside diameter, everything that would be related to the criteria for that part. Now, moving into the Browse tab, this is actually where the product data is going to be organized and stored. Starting with the products, you can see that these are different products that we're managing within Windchill. There's also libraries. So if you have things like general documentation, marketing, training, that's where you can store that type of information, projects, even changes. So these are categories for storing the information within here. And then drilling down into a product specific category. So here we're working within our product and understanding the different options you have. Starts with the details. The details tab throughout Windchill is always going to be high level overview information into what you're viewing. So we're viewing the high level overview information for a product right now. You can see end items, who created the part. That's also where visibility kind of starts within the demonstration. So showing you the traceability and visualization or traceability throughout changes or the object you're managing. And then there's different actions that can be taken on these objects. So saving as a template, export as a template, creating new objects directly from here. That gives flexibility for the creation and changing of those objects. Then you have your folders tab. This is where this is set up like a Windows File Explorer, where you have your folders and then objects down between those folders. And this also is where we start to understand the access rights for users. So for example, what I mean is, let's say that you have a design team. You only want your design team to be able to have access to this for any reason. You can allow your design team to only have access. If there was an individual object, you can also control that access level from the object level. And then management for your teams are done within here as well. So you can see as soon as you open up your team, you have different roles throughout the product, designers, guests, admins, and this is where you can do your user or team privileges. So for example, if you need to add a new member, again, you don't have to contact IT administration to do this. You can quickly add a new user, whether it's by their name, username, email address. You can see it's going to populate that user, and then you simply assign the role, and then they're added to that role. So now this user has every privilege or access that that group would have. And then once you apply those changes, you're actually going to see the members list update with that new user added in. You can also create your own roles directly from here as well. So if you want to use some of the out-of-the-box roles that Windchill has, you have that option. If you have your own naming conventions, you can also quickly add those as well, and then apply access rights to that new role that you're adding. Then whenever it comes to configuration for the actions that different roles can take, this is how you would do that. Again, this really helps with the IT administration side of things, especially whenever you're working within whether it be small teams or large teams, large enterprises. You can see you have your different roles going across the top. On the far left-hand side are all the different actions that those roles can have. And you can also notice that some roles have predefined accesses. So for example, if you never want a guest to be able to create a folder, modify a team, your IT administration can set that up so that those changes can never be made to that role. Okay, now let's say that you want to be able to get a visualization into a specific part or an assembly within your product. All you're doing is opening up your product structure. And now let's say that you want to go to the structure of your car or your product, and you want to dig a little bit further into one of the assemblies. This is what you'd be doing. So you open up your original product, you go into your assembly, and then from here, we talked about the details tab earlier, but whenever you're working within products, what you can do is click on that visualization, and what's going to happen is it's going to launch Creo View. What Creo View is our lightweight representation tool that is going to allow any user to gain access to, in this example, your part or your assembly. This is not only limited to CAD objects. You can also open things such as PDF documentation, electrical drawings. So this is actually used as an all-in-one viewer and showing a lightweight representation of your objects. Where this is beneficial for CAD in particular is being able to get dimensions. So this is actually going to be accurate to your CAD files themselves, but you don't have to worry about someone making a change to the object. So if someone needs to come in, leave a note, get an actual dimension for the objects, they can do that. And then where this can be implemented and how this works in collaboration is this can be shared to another user. So they could view this, whatever information you're including on the annotation set. And then this can also be implemented into a change process. So imagine you're working within change management within Windchill. You have a product that needs to be changed or a document that needs to be changed. And what you can do is start your change request, come in, make annotations, letting any engineer know what change needs to actually occur. You save it to that change request, and then it can be visible and you have full traceability for your engineer to know exactly what needs to change for that object. Like I said, this is also going to be accurate to your dimensions for your objects. If you need to come and get a quick diameter, you can see how easy that is to do. And this is also beneficial for users that don't have access to your CAD system. If it's something or someone within manufacturing or production, they need to see the CAD object, they can open this up within Creo View and then have direct access to that file. Once you're done making any annotations, like I said, you save the annotation set, and this gets directly associated to the object on Windchill, which is giving you the visibility and traceability. You don't need an authoring tool to view that information. And it's also, of course, enterprise friendly. Any user can have this type of access. Now, actually going into the BOM, the bill of materials itself, we're going to be viewing the structure tab. From here, there's a lot of functionality. It starts with the visualization. On the far left-hand side, if you select on your BOM, it's going to update your visualization. And now here you can see directly in the tool itself, within the system itself, you have direct access to that visualization. You don't have to open up your CAD system to do this. You even don't need to have Creo View to have a lightweight representation to the object. You can also choose which objects are being represented in the visualization. There's some interrogation that can be done, such as zooming in, zooming out, selecting on different components, things like that. And then you can also expand your WT part. So to address the WT part, what that is the little gear icon on the left-hand side. And all that is like a bucket of information. So in the case of a bill of materials, you have your overall assembly, your assemblies down below that, and then parts down below that. Where the WT part comes in play for your bill of material is being able to associate generally disparate information. And what I mean is, let's say you have a document that should be associated to your overall assembly. You can then put it in the bucket for your overall assembly. You can expand these out as well. So this is giving you a more robust view of your bill of material. And then if you actually want to understand what information is tied to your bill of material, like I said, such as your documents, CAD documents, AML, AVL, if that's something you're managing, you can show all, and then it's going to actually begin to bring in those objects I was talking about. So there, you're actually seeing the assembly files, drawings, so bringing in that generally disparate information, plant information. So if you're working between different plant locations, you can even incorporate that within your bill of material. And then scrolling down, you can see one that's a little bit more elaborate. So within our brake disc, there's load calculations, an assembly, there's a heat flow analysis that can be included. So this is allowing you to understand within that one part, within the assembly that you're working on, all impacts that that one part would have. If you go to make a change to that part, you understand that that heat flow analysis is tied to it. So that's a lot of how the visibility is done between different objects. Now, whenever it comes to creation of new parts, this is how you could go about it. This is one way of handling it. So if we select it on our top level assembly on the far left, under the uses tab, this is a breakdown of what we saw earlier on the left-hand side. It's showing even the versioning, the quantities, trace codes, if they were associated to trace code. And then whenever you want to create a new part, if it's something already existing, you could just simply search for it. So for example, adding a new label, type in label, it's going to search for anything with a label in it, and then you can incorporate that within your bill of material or your WT parts. Now, when that's brought in, two things to note that are happening. One, you get your label, of course, but then everything associated to it. If there's any documentation for any reason that's related to that label, you can open that label and have the relationships. You can see the version. So we're working on version 8.2. And then also within your bill of materials, the gear icon now changed to, it looks like a gear icon, and then there's a little yellow and blue symbol at the bottom right. That means that this is checked out. So what you just saw was Windchill automatically making sure that when this engineer or this user is making a change to any object in Windchill, it's going to check it out to that user. When that user is done making any changes, then they can check it back in, and it's automatically going to update the version for you. And then that user is also going to be able to leave comments. So you understand exactly what happened between version A.1 and A.2 on any object that you have. So in this case, it would be A.18 to A.19 if we committed that change. Now, within the bill of materials, there's also a lot of different metadata that's included within these objects, and you can choose what's being represented within this view. So for example, if you want to see usage details, you can select on your different view, and you're going to see that information populate within the bill of materials. And that could be beneficial depending on which type of user is being logged in, and it's going to also remain as you stay logged in, those views would be represented for each user. And then there's different filters also that you can have within your bill of materials, things such as your design, manufacturing. There's comparison tools, which are really powerful for being able to do comparisons on your part structure or your CAD structure. So it doesn't just have to be for assemblies or products themselves. You can even do this to document structures. And all we're doing here is comparing different versions. It's a very straightforward tool, very easy to use. So that's what we'll be doing, comparing version 8.8, 8.18, and it's going to give you that high level overview into the changes. The way that you can discern the differences, one being here in the center, you'll notice that this is showing a child difference, and then on the right, that's an attribute difference. And then also within the bill of materials themselves, you can see that some of them are blue. So it's a very visual tool for any user to come in, be able to drill down between the changes and see which versions they're working on between the different overall versions of your products. And then similar to whenever we were viewing the bill of materials within the structure tab, you also have visualization. So if your product, and it's going to change over time, you're going to be able to see the actual visualization changes through your models directly from the comparison tool. So there's no exporting needed to be able to do this. It's all within the tool itself. Now, moving back into the bill of materials, there's also reporting. This is extremely valuable for any reports needed, whether it be multi-level component list, single level BOM, multi-level BOM. Again, if you're managing AMLs and AVLs, so approved manufacturers list, you can also generate the reports for those. So no matter what stage you are within your design, you always have reporting available from your bill of materials. And this is what one would look like. So from scrolling down, you can see it's structured out similar to what your bill of materials would have. Your version is all being brought in, so you know exactly what version that's being used, your naming convention, the quantities for those, the current state that they're in. So it's bringing in the metadata into those reports and having quick access to those. And there's also exporting options. So if you ever need to export any of your bill of materials or a lot of the information throughout Windchill, you're going to notice you have different options: CSV, PDF documentation, Excel file, even importable spreadsheets. So if you're ever in a situation where you need to export your bill of materials, make a lot of quick changes at once, and then you know it's coming back into Windchill directly, it makes it more easy for Windchill to digest that information. Now, moving into the tabs at the top, it starts with the related objects. And this is showing relationships between the objects for this product. And this is going to be prevalent throughout any object that you're looking at, any WT part. You can understand any related documentation, reference documents, even the CAD objects themselves. So if you wanted to add a new document, you're going to see Windchill's doing its job. So when you have a user making a change to your parts, it's going to make sure that they follow a process. There's workflows designed for this. It's going to let them know they need to check the part out. Then they're able to search because, again, you're able to store all your product related information, not just your CAD documents, into the system. From there, you can reference directly to a document. So if you know if you need to make a change to your part, this is a document that also might need a change as well. Now, what I'll do is just undo that checkout, just to actually not change our object. And then what we're also going to cover is the changes tab. So again, I kind of prefaced this earlier. There's change management within Windchill. So if this object was going through a change, every change object would be shown here. So anytime you need to go to again, it's not just CAD restrictive. This could also be used for documentation as well. So any object in Windchill can go through change management, and then you have a full process that you're making sure that every user within the system is following. And then as your users are making changes to any object, again, it's tracking all that information for you, when they leave comments, when they made a change, why they made the change. And this is also really important for being able to run comparisons, having full visibility. If you have audits that you go through, you have that full traceability through the changes. If you ever need to run your comparison like we saw similar before, you can also compare your structures for your documents, or your changes, I mean. So here, this is an attribute comparison. You can see it's actually just comparing the attributes versus having the visualization like we had earlier. And then you have your where used tab. So this is going to show in-depth report of where product is being used. So going back to the example with your washer, if you have a washer a part that you're managing, and you need to understand when you make a change to that washer, what impact does it have? This is where you would be able to go to find it. So it's like a first level impact analysis. You also have similar exporting options as well. And then you would be able to understand the relationships between them. And then the last tab to cover is within the representations and annotations. This is whenever we went into the details view for our product or our part, and we made annotations in Creo view. This is where that would be saved. And again, this isn't restrictive to the product. This can also be implemented within a change process, for example. So you're pushing a product through a change, you make your annotations in Creo view, and then any user can come in, launch Creo view, and then have that access, the visibility that they need to make any changes for your products. And that's all I had to cover for our Windchill overview. I hope that you
Awesome,
see
Shane.
relating the product information, pushing them, making sure that they're following a workflow, and every user has the visibility they need when they need it.
Cool. Shane, good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, very explained really well. If you want to see a more detailed demo of Windchill, or if you have questions, you can respond to the email that I sent you regarding this webinar, or you can just email us at info@3hti.com, and we can do a custom demo for you, or get a little bit more into detail about what you need to get out of a product data management system, product lifecycle management system, or how it can integrate with any of our other systems like ERP. So Shane, thank you very much for the webinar, for the overview today with PLM. Next week, our webinar is going to be on generative design regarding Creo. So I will contain a link in the email with the recording that should be sent out by tomorrow. So thanks again, everyone, for being on. Shane, thank you for doing a great job as always, and have a great day.